Greetings, beautiful earthlings. My name is Star. If you are new here, I don't know how you found me, but I'm super grateful to have you. And if you are returning, y'all the real MVP, you already know. I'm going to try to do a car video this morning. We'll see how this goes. But I have a very strong message coming through from Spirit this morning. I have the cards here just in case. I don't really think I need them, to be honest. But the message that I'm getting this morning is for those of you who feel some type of way about monetizing your spiritual gifts. So this is something that I see come up a lot in the community, like a lot, over and over and over and over and over and over. And I have for, the entire time I've been a part of this community. And it's a very big debate, and I'm not here to debate it. I'm just here to talk about the message that's coming through regarding this specific situation. So I've actually had a lot of signs about this the past couple of days. I was listening to a podcast by Gabriel Hardy with the guy, what's his name? Jake Knows Nothing, I think. And the podcast episode itself was actually talking about the GATE program. Y'all know how invested I am in this right now. But what they were talking about is, in part 2, they kind of started off the episode talking about monetization of spiritual gifts. And the way that they were talking about it at first kind of irked me, because I was like, you guys aren't even a part of this community. I had a lot of defensive reaction to it. And the more that I'm listening, I'm like, okay, let me hear what he's got to say. Let me hear, let me get past this segment so I can get to the rest of the podcast, right? And the more he's talking about it, the more I'm like, damn, he's got a point. I don't really like the way he's talking about it. I don't really like the way he's making the point, but he's got a point. And the point that Jake was making is that in the spiritual community, those of us who feel like we have gifts or feel like we are attuned to our gifts fall for this thing called the guru trap, where we feel like we need to monetize our spiritual gifts and speak from a place of authority. This is something I've talked about a lot on my channel recently, how I was talking about, I don't feel right in this place speaking on things like that. It just doesn't feel right to me anymore. And this is something that I've struggled with for a long time to really wrap my mind around, because it is something that is really pushed in the community. When you start doing something spiritually, because it's something you're led to do by your spirit team, something you're led to do internally by your higher self or whatnot. And a lot of people, especially in this day and age, are going to tell you to put a price tag on that and tell you, if this is what you do, if this is what you're good at, make a living out of it. That way you never have to work a day in your life, right? And although a lot of us are led to monetize our spiritual gifts, not only by the community, but also by our spiritual team. I want to make that very clear. A lot of us are led by our spiritual team to monetize this. And that's where a big internal rift happened for me specifically, was because it's not so much that I wanted to make money off of tarot reading. I just wanted to talk about tarot. That's why I started my channel. I wanted to talk about tarot. I wanted to review tarot decks. I wanted to do tarot readings. And my team, my spiritual team, my guides from the get-go, from the jump, were like, okay, you need to start charging for readings. Okay, practice with free readings, but you need to start charging for readings. And the whole point behind the idea of charging for readings is compensation for your energetic exchange. Because if you are doing some kind of barter, right? Say you're doing a reading for a family member or a friend in person, actually across the table, and you give them a couple cards, you guys talk about it over some coffee, you guys are having a good talk, it turns into a laugh, you guys go out to eat after. That's kind of a mutually beneficial energetic exchange where it's pretty even. Whereas when you're doing something like I do, where the readings are one-sided and you're only doing it behind a camera, you're not sitting with that person, you're not having that type of back and forth interaction, there is no real energetic exchange. It's you pulling on their energy, you reading on it, you giving them advice. It's very one-sided. And I chose that path for me for a reason, because I have done in-person readings that were very hard on me, to say the very least. And that was not something that I wanted to do. I learned very quickly that I can't read that way. I just can't focus. I can't read. I can't tap into myself and my spirit team the way that I need to when someone is sitting across from me and I can feel and hear everything they're saying, and they're looking at me and their team is right there. It's like, it's way too much for me personally. So when my team initially told me to start charging for readings and for services, I still felt very itchy about it. I still charged very low. I still charge very low to this day, compared to a lot of readers in the community, especially really like TikTok famous ones. And that is because the way that they see it, their time is precious, right? You need to be compensated for your time, especially if you are not working, right? For me, the difference was I was working at the time that I was doing readings. So to me, what was more important was scheduling conflicts. I wanted to make sure that the people who were booking readings knew that I was very busy. I was working, I had a kid, I had a lot of things on my plate. It was kind of like, I'll get to your reading when I can get to your reading, to be honest. I can't really set a scheduled time, be there at that exact time, be punctual. Sometimes I really need that benefit of fluidity when it comes to my scheduling, just because if I'm not feeling it when it's time to do that reading, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to force it. And a lot of people are very good about pushing themselves and their boundaries in regards to keeping a time, right? That's one thing I'm not willing to budge on. If I do not feel good, if I do not have the energy, I am not doing it. Sorry, we can reschedule, or I can give you your money back. I'm not budging. I'm not doing it. So I never did things like emergency readings or stuff like that. And it was always around when I could. That was the most important thing to me. And that's why my prices were also so low for so long, is because I did kind of feel bad that if you were booking a reading with me and you were like either really excited about it or you really needed the insight for whatever reason, I knew you were going to get pushed off for a couple weeks. And so to me, the pricing also reflected fluidity, right? Like I'll take some money off because I know I can't keep a schedule. If I was very good and very punctual and I could, I'll get you in tomorrow at 2:00. Yeah, I would probably charge higher prices because it's right then and there, and it's immediate, and it's a better service, and it's, more catered to that person, same as if I was doing like an in-person reading, stuff like that. So pricing is always really, really, really fluid, especially considering the line of work we're in. There is no template for charging things in the spiritual community, right? That's why people's prices are all over the place. Whereas I do charge more for things that I make than readings I was giving. Because to me, I really wasn't putting in any effort to do readings. I was tapping into the energy of, spirit and my guides and my clients' guides and letting them run the reading. I wasn't doing anything. I was just a vessel sitting there pulling cards. The only thing I really had to do was make the time and set up the table. And so for me, that felt like no effort on my part. Whereas something that I make, like a necklace or a pendulum or something, I'm actually putting time, effort, and materials into. So I do charge way more for those. But the point that I'm making here is that when your spirit team leads you to do something, especially something like charging for spiritual gifts, there's not really much communication on it unless you are a very set in your boundaries kind of person and you're willing to fight them about it. But a lot of us do just go along with what our spirit team says and directs, because that's the whole point. That's what we're doing. We follow the guides, we follow the signs, we follow the synchronicities, we follow the guidance. That's why we ask for guidance, right? Is to be given that guidance. And a lot of time your spirit team will also see that you are struggling energetically, financially, things like that. So to them, this is, you know, a win-win. You are struggling in these areas. This is the thing that I need you to do. I need you to do this service. I need you to get this word out. I need you to be a vessel for me. And if you're willing to be a vessel for me, I'll make sure money comes in. And, you know, that's something that you talk over with every single one of your guides individually, your deities, your ancestors, whoever that may be that you are working with at the time. And they'll guide you in that way. I have had multiple guides tell me not to charge for people. Tell me, like, this person just really needs your help. They just need someone to talk to. They just need someone to listen to. They just need, you know, 5 minutes of your time. This doesn't need to be a full service. You know, I can actually help you through what they need. Things like that. And, what they were getting at on that podcast is, because we are not teaching people to channel their gifts themselves, to hone these gifts, to channel them, to utilize them, to get comfortable with practicing them, right? People are more likely to fall for what he called fake gurus. Okay, I have an issue with some things he was saying, but his example was, he was calling out Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar. Now, again, those of you guys who are in the spiritual community, we take a lot from Bashar. We take a lot from a lot of the things that Bashar says. Now, nobody's saying anything about Daryl Anka, right? This person who's talking on the podcast did have a lot to say about Daryl Anka. Take that with a grain of salt. That's none of my fucking business. But what he's saying is, if we're not teaching people that they have this guru within them and teaching them how to find it and how to meditate and how to hone these skills, they're more likely to fall for people like that. They're more likely to, you know, throw money at people, was more of his point. And he was saying it more of from the stance of, he thinks he is a channeler of sorts, and he does not feel right charging for channeling. That's why he makes the videos that he makes, because he wants to share this information, because it is being given to him from higher sources. He does not feel right charging for this. This does come from a lot of people as well who have experiences with extraterrestrials. I don't know what we call them anymore, but a lot of people feel the need to share this information and want it to be open source, right? Kind of like how the CIA declassifies things when they're ready, right? We get little bits and pieces to chew on here and there. They're never going to tell us everything, of course. But a lot of people really fully believe in the idea of open source information, as well as a lot of spiritual healers and readers in the community who have gone through mentorships with people like monks and shamans, right? Whereas monks and shamans come from lineages where these gifts are shared within the community for barter as energy exchange, right? Usually your medicine man in the tribe wouldn't be charging things unless it was some kind of good, right? You bring him a chicken, he'll help you with your foot. I don't know. But things like that is kind of the idea that a lot of people are still holding on to, that this is something that I heard from a reader a long time ago that really, really, really stuck with me. And they said gifts should be freely given, because they are freely given by spirit to you to utilize, to give to everyone else, basically. So that's something that really, really, really stuck with me. It really bothered me. It's always been in the back of my mind. It's always been niggling at me. And I've had a friend recently who is the exact opposite, who basically feels like you can never charge enough. Like, the amount of energy and time that I'm putting into the things that I'm doing should be compensated every single step of the way. You are not charging enough. And this idea, I noticed, kind of came to a head when I was helping out a client. And this client reached out to me saying that she's been following me for a long time. I think I gave her a reading back in the day or something, and she's always remembered me, and now she really needed my help with something. So she booked a reading for that, and my spirit team was guiding me to talk to her, right? Basically, don't waste your time trying to get answers in the reading just because she booked a reading. Figure out what it is she needs help with and see if that's even something that can be cleared up in a reading. Excuse me. And the more we talked, the more I realized she didn't need a reading. I felt like a reading was probably conducive to her situation in a certain instance, but it was not a service I was able to provide her at the time because of my pregnancy and how awful I was feeling. But I was able to give her time. I was able to talk to her. I was able to lead her through a lot of things, and I hope it helped, you know. But when I was talking to my friend about this, she was kind of like, she didn't pay you enough for that. She didn't pay you enough for what you're doing. And that kind of really fucking irked me because I've never been the type of person to be like, time's up, $30 more and I'll keep talking to you. You know, that's never been my thing ever. I've always undercharged because I want my services to be accessible, and I know that it is not feasible in this economy, right? But to me, you know, you could hand me $5 in quarters and say, I'm really sorry, this is all that I have, and I would say, like, I really appreciate it. You know, like, I really appreciate that you gave me this token of gratitude as all that you have, right? You could hand me a fucking cupcake and say, I just made some cupcakes for my daughter's class, and, you know, I stole this one for myself, but it's all that I have and I can give it to you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, charging has always made me itchy. It's something that I have struggled with for a really long time about charging readings. When it comes, again, to charging for things like making jewelry, making pendulums, that's completely different. That is time spent, energy spent, materials spent. I don't mind charging for that at all. That's the whole point of making these things, right? But for me, it was always, I just really want to make things, and now I don't know what to do with them now that I made them. So here, if you want it, throw me a 10 spot and I'll give it to you, you know? But my friend was telling me with that client, basically, you should invoice her for this. Like, when I was telling her all the things that I was talking about with this client and how I kept feeling like I didn't feel right about the situation because I felt like it was not resolved. I felt like I didn't help enough. I felt like, you know, I didn't really complete the service. Mind you, there was no service booked for this. I didn't have the name of a service of like just a consultation. I did not offer services like that because it's not something that I particularly like doing, just because I don't have the time. Again, it's more of, if I can get back to you, I'll get back to you. So when I was talking to my friend about this, and this is a friend that I considered a mentor and I was very close with, and, you know, her word was gospel to me for a long time. And when this kept coming out, like this idea of like, she's not paying you enough, it started getting under my skin because that person also felt the same way. The client also felt the same way, saying that, you know, you don't have to answer my questions. You don't have to keep texting me back. I know I'm not paying you enough for the time that you're giving me. I know that I'm not paying you enough for this consultation. I know that you don't have a service that I can book for this amount of time that I'm using up from you. And that really bothered me. You know, I told her, I was like, you compensated me. You gave me money for a reading. I still haven't even given you a reading. This is basically a pre-reading consultation. So to make her feel a little better, I made a listing called a pre-reading consultation. And I was like, here, if you really want to pay for something with the wording regarding what we're doing, here, this is a pre-reading consultation. she did pay that, and then she wanted to pay me more, and she wanted to pay for, you know, more time, more reading, more things. And, you know, it got to the point where she said, look, I don't feel right about you helping me anymore, because I feel like I'm not paying you enough for this. Don't give me the readings that I booked, okay? Just keep the money. And I was like, no, you booked a reading, I'm gonna give you a reading. If you don't want a reading, I will refund you for the reading. Because she came to me as a friend and as a previous client. She talked to me from an angle about, this is the situation that I'm having an issue with, that I want a reading on. And so I was talking to her about the things that she wanted to clear up with a reading, and then I realized a reading ain't gonna do shit for this situation. You need intervention. You need something else completely, entirely, a whole different set of magical tools here. It's not really something that I can give you. It's not really a service I can provide you, but I can walk you through doing it yourself, you know? And I felt like it was the very least I could do, because she came to me. And my issue was that she had been passed through the hands of a lot of practitioners who let her down, who basically said, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. I don't want to deal with this. Go figure it out yourself. Go to somebody else. And that really fucking bothers me, because as a community, we should be focused on helping each other first. If she was a client that has never seen me before and was not in any way in touch with her spiritual self, right? She wasn't a witch in any way. She wasn't a practitioner. She was just a muggle seeking a reading, and she wanted more than the reading. That's a whole different situation. But the thing is, she was a practicing witch. She has done a lot on this herself to help herself out, and she just needed some guidance of where to steer. And the fact that nobody was willing to help her out, because the situation was very messy, nobody was willing to help her out. Everybody basically looked at it and said, oh, this is gonna take too much time. Like, this is gonna take too much of my time. I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with this. And even when I was talking to my friend about it, she kind of said the same thing. Like, I don't really want to deal with that either. Like, I would charge her way too much for that, for dealing with that. Because a lot of people think that this person's coming to you with an issue because they want you to fix the issue. She didn't want me to fix the issue. She wanted guidance on how to get through it herself. And I feel like that's something that not a lot of people take the time to like clear up. Like, what do you actually want to do in this situation? Do you want to help find your voice and your power through this situation, and, you know, reclaim your sovereignty and take back control of the situation yourself? Or do you want me to clear this up for you? Because those are two different services. I can help you find your voice and find your sovereignty and clear up the situation yourself, and I can show you how to do that. But if it comes to me actually doing all of that for you, going in there, doing the rituals, using tools, using you know, hella time on that, I'm not going to do that either. But I think that's the difference, is people expect that when clients are coming to you with questions, you're supposed to have answers for them. And that's not always the case. And that's also kind of what this dude on this podcast was talking about, that when people come to you with questions, when you are in a place of authority, be it in the spiritual community, be it in anything, right? If it's something you have a platform on, you are speaking on it, people will come to you with questions just inherently, because you are standing in front of the crowd and speaking. So what he was getting at is that Daryl Anka spends so much of his time answering questions and doesn't teach, right? That was kind of his issue with what was going on, as well as the performative nature or whatever. But it's not a bad point to be made. It was made in an incorrect way with criticism and judgment, but the point itself was not a bad point. That when people come to you with questions, you shouldn't feel like you have the authority to answer that. Although, yes, you are a channel, especially in most most cases, they're coming to you because you are a channel, right? You are speaking with spirit. Spirit is speaking through you, or whatever entity you are channeling is speaking through you. And a lot of instances, that spirit or that entity will speak with authority, but it is coming from your mouth. It is coming through your body. And it does look as though you are the one speaking on it with authority and conviction, right? Dr. Mike also had something to say about this morning, where he was talking about, like, if a client comes to me, a patient comes to me and says, you know, I have this issue, I'm not going to tell them point blank period, this is the answer. I'm going to tell them, here is a list of potential diagnostics. Here are the things we should check out. Here are the things that are a little bit more time sensitive in that order to check out. Here are the things that will help with the symptoms. Here are the things that'll do this, 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 and this. But I never at any point in time tell them with absolute certainty, your stomach hurts, you have appendicitis, or you have a headache, it's brain cancer. Like, he's basically saying, like, there's a lot of things to run through, and it's my job as a medical professional to tell them of all the things that we need to run through and why, and inform them so that they can be adequately prepared to make the decision themselves, instead of handing them a decision, because that's not your decision to hand to them. So I've had like a lot of things coming together in terms of talking about this specific idea of charging for services, of monetizing gifts, the way that I've put it. I don't know who put it that way. I don't know where that wording came from, but that's what's coming out of my head, is monetizing gifts. And I've heard a lot of people in the spiritual community talking about this lately, and I have heard a lot of readers saying, like, hey, if you don't want to monetize your gifts, you know, don't monetize your gifts. They're your gifts to do with what you feel is right to do with them. And although, yeah, the people around you are going to tell you need to make money off of these things, or the people that are guiding you, like in the astral, right, your guides, your ancestors may be telling you need to monetize these things, you still need to take their advice with a grain of salt and go with what's best for you and where your intuition is leading you. Because remember, at the end of the day, it is your life, it is your destiny that you are paving, it is your track to walk down. And you also have to remember, especially with ancestors, if they're telling you to do something, it's not always because it's the best move. With ancestors too, you got to remember, they do kind of tell you things based on their human lives. And if this is something they feel like they missed out on in their life, where they're like, yeah, I always had a gift and I didn't realize I could make money off of it. You know, I would have hella been making money off of it, but they were also in a place in their life of poverty or something like that. They were struggling with money. That could be where their advice is coming from too, where they're saying, like, you have something that you can be making money off of. Why are you struggling? You know, they're giving you advice that needs to be filtered a little bit. And that's something that's very important that comes with ancestor work that I feel like not a lot of people talk about, is you do gotta kind of filter your ancestor advice. Like, ancestors do have the very best in heart, you know, in heart and in mind for you, and they're always going to be there for you, and they're always your first line of defense. However, when it comes to things like this, especially something that you feel itchy about, there's a reason for it. If you're feeling itchy about advice you have been given by either a friend, a family member, or a spirit, it's because you're meant to sit with it. It doesn't align with you if you're feeling conflicted about it and you don't understand why you're feeling conflicted about it, right? And the thing is, if you're going to your spirits and telling them you feel conflicted about the advice they have given you, but you're going back to the same spirit that gave you the advice in the first place, they're probably going to do what any humans do and try to convince you about why their advice is right. This is why it's important to talk to multiple spirits. And if you don't want to talk to multiple spirits because you're getting confusion, right? You're getting muddy waters because you're talking to too many spirits, which is also an issue, right? You're talking to too many spirits, you're getting too much guidance, you're getting too much advice, think about it in terms of the 3D. If you were telling your friends and family about a certain situation and every single one of them had different advice, you would also take their advice with a grain of salt. You'd be like, yeah, but also she only thinks that because of this, and she's only telling me that because in her experience this, or she only has that bias because it's going to affect her. You know what I mean? You would filter everyone's advice based on what you know about them. And that's a little difficult to do when we're talking with spirits, especially spirits you don't know, especially if you haven't spent time with these spirits. So if you are feeling some type of way about something, right? I'm using monetizing your gifts as an example, but if you're feeling some type of way about something that your spirits are guiding you towards, sit with it. It's okay to sit with it. It's okay to tell your spirits, I need time to think about this. Never, ever, ever are your spirits going to tell you, no, you need to do this right now. No, you need to do this right now. There's no time to think. You need to do this now. Maybe in a life or death situation where they're telling you don't take that turn, but that's very drastic. That's a drastic example. If you do have spirits guiding you and telling you you don't have time to think about something, you need to take my advice now and it's the only way, that spirit does not have your best interest at heart. And you need to know that. And that's very important. You need to consult another spirit on that spirit, okay? The same way that if a doctor was telling you, you need to get this surgery right this second, and you say, I want a second opinion, and that doctor says, there's no time, you can get a second opinion. And I know that that might be a controversial example, but you can always get a second opinion. There's always time for a second opinion. And if somebody is pushing you to make a decision right this second, they do not have your best interest at heart, there is something else at play, and you need to understand that. And the thing that I have learned from this most recent experience that I was just talking about, like with my friend and with this client, that was honestly my last client interaction before I shut off readings and consultations, not because of that client, but because of my pregnancy and because of just how hard it's like been on my body and trying to manage things. I was like, I'm not dealing with readings too. I refunded her reading. I was like, I'm not doing that ever again. I'm not trying to book readings when I feel like shit. I'm not doing it. But that was my last interaction. That actually happened to be my last interaction with that friend for a long time too, not because of the interaction itself. It just so happened that that's the way the timing worked out. And what I learned from that I have sat with for a very, very, very long time, is that if something somebody is telling you doesn't quite sit right with you, just because everything else that person has said up until then has been right and reputable, does not mean that the advice that person is giving you in this moment is right for you, okay? Because everything my friend did to help me and lead me and guide me and heal me, she did so much, right? She did so much. I can never repay her for how much she did, how much she paved the way for who I am right now. But when it came to the disagreements we had about monetizing services, that was something I was not willing to budge on, because I know me personally, my heart, my morals, my internal compass, and what has always led me through spirit work has always been actually hearing people out and actually helping people in the best way that I possibly can, especially if that person came to me with an issue and it wasn't just, I want a reading, here's money. If they actually came to me with an issue and said, hey, I really want to talk to you about this thing, I am going to talk to you like you are a friend, like you are a family member coming to me with something. If you start taking advantage of that and saying, can you pull cards on this? Can you give me a reading on this? I'll send you the link to book a reading. But the difference is, if you need someone to talk to about something, if you just want a little guidance on where to look, if you need resources or something like that, there's no reason that someone in your community shouldn't be able to help you with that. And it really, really, really fucking irks me that we have this mindset now that we need to monetize our time. Because when the world crashes and there's nothing left but barter, yeah, I get it. The people who are hustling are still gonna hustle. But the thing is, me personally, it just doesn't fucking sit right with me. I want to help people, you know? I've always wanted to help people. And I know a lot of people feel like that is a detrimental quality. Like, you're gonna let people walk all over you. And this person also said to me that they feel like that comes from religious trauma, because something in the paperwork we sign going through Catholic school and stuff like that is that, you know, our job being a child of God is that we are supposed to freely give our gifts and our time to our community and the people that need help, right? That is something that is taught to us as children of God, right? Christians, Catholics, what have you. That's why, you know, people who are very Christian will always say, like, of course I'll help you. Like, of course I'll help you. Of course I'll take the time. Of course I'll grab that for you. You know, oh, don't worry about it. I got you. They're very giving, very loving people, most of them. And a lot of us do have issues with religious trauma. So sometimes deconstructing religious trauma means kind of picking out the things you got issues with. And giving of my time and energy in a loving manner for a neighbor, for a friend, for a family member, does not need to come with a price tag for me personally. Now, if that person keeps coming back and keeps abusing that generosity, that's a different story. That person is no longer appreciative and grateful for the help that you gave them, right? Especially if they don't come back and counter offer something. Hey, you helped me with that thing, can I mow your grass? You know what I mean? You can always kind of tell in a situation what that person's motives are. If they keep coming and just feeding off of you, yeah, clearly they're not the people you should be giving that help to. But all of that comes from discernment, and that's all something that we learn in our time in the spiritual community anyways. And if you are not working on your discernment, that's a whole other issue in and of itself. But all of that to say, discernment, I mean, discernment should always be like at the top of the list of everything. Don't tell me you don't have the gift of discernment. I really cannot stand that people call that a gift. That they say, oh, I have the gift of discernment. So you're saying you have something that nobody else does, you know? Like, I don't really like calling psychic abilities and, you know, natural abilities gifts, because they are something that we all possess. They are something that we all have within reach. They are something that we can all train and hone. Some of us are a little better at certain things than others. Like, some of us are natural channelers, some of us are natural healers, some of us are natural dream walkers, right? There are so many things in the psychic realm that we can do. And all it takes is you reading a damn book, reading one book, reading 2 books, reading 3 books, learning as much as you can and being like, maybe I should try that. Did you know that there's books about astral travel and lucid dreaming, and that you could also do that, and it doesn't take a specially skilled person to do that? Did you know that children are very good at psychic senses because they don't have so much clutter in their mind yet? Yeah, everybody has the capacity to do these things. And I do kind of agree with what that guy was saying about how if we would just take the time to sit with each other and walk each other through these things and teach each other that these are all things we have within ourselves, that we wouldn't be falling for the guru trap, right? I was watching something about the twin flame universe cult people, and just the way that these cult people talk always fascinates me from the standpoint of how the fuck do people fall for this? And it's not to say that these people who are following these people are wrong, right? I understand they are naive, they don't know any better, they don't have any, you know, love or leadership or whatever it might be, or they just feel like that makes sense from a logical standpoint. I understand that from a lot of angles. You know, everything is contextual, and there are lots of ways you could get sucked into something like that. I'm not faulting the people who are following these cults, but the thing is, uh, if we were taught from an early age that we all have these abilities within us, I feel like things would be a lot different. If somebody came to you and asked, hey, how do you do that? I feel like if a little kid asked you, how do you open this jar? And you went, here, I'll do it for you. You're taking away their curiosity and their willingness to learn, right? If they say, how do you open this jar? Okay, hold the jar and I'll talk you through it. Maybe that's just me because I'm a mom, and I can hear the difference between how do you do this and can you do this for me? And then I can also, when I hear can you do this for me, I say, well, let's see if you can do it, right? Let's see if I can walk you through it. If I can't walk you through it, you're not ready for it yet, that's fine, I'll do it, but next time we're gonna try again. And I feel like that's something that we should all be walking people through. Same thing with tarot reading and discerning spirits and things like that. I feel like that should be common knowledge that is passed down, but there's so much like fear mongering around talking to spirits and divination and things like that, that of course it's impossible to do, especially when you come from highly religious and highly judgmental families, right? So I understand, I take that with a grain of salt, but I just really feel like the older I'm getting, the less I want to be charging for services. I have a lot of fun doing readings for TikTok when I can put on there not booking readings. Like usually when I have to get it up that day and link all my services and write all of that and tag it and make sure I share it everywhere and make sure I'm promoting my services, and if it's a Loki reading I have to say Loki readings can be booked here. Like all of that to me is really fucking draining. And it's not to say that I need someone to do it for me. It means that it's not aligned with where I am currently, right? Maybe that's something I pick up again in 5 years or something. And I have been talking about this for quite a while, about why I've stopped doing readings or why I'm giving all my tarot decks away. It's not to say that I'm not a reader. It's not to say that I don't enjoy tarot reading. It's not to say that I don't want to help people. It's just to say that I'm starting to get real fucking itchy charging for services and monetizing services and advertising services, right? Like I don't mind one bit advertising something that I made. Yeah, my tarot deck, hell yeah, all day. I'll do readings with that all day and link where you can get it. I would love to see my tarot deck in more hands, and it's not to say it's because I'm making money off of it, because I sure as hell am not. I am taking a big hit on those decks, really big hit. But I would love to see my tarot deck in the hands of people. Like, that would make me so happy. And I feel like this is a never-ending argument about whether you should or should not charge for your services, whether you should or should not charge for your gifts. No! I had a feeling that was gonna happen. I don't want to lose any cards to the black hole under the sea, man. And, again, I'm nobody. I'm just a guy on the internet with some cards in my hand, and some time to kill. But, hey, if you don't feel right charging for your gifts because you feel like they are gifts given to you from a higher source, and you feel like it is your responsibility to share those gifts, when you have the energy to do so, go with what your gut is telling you. There is no reason that we should be guilt-tripping each other in the community to charging when we don't want to charge. There is no reason that we should be telling people that they need to charge higher. There is no reason that we need to be telling people they need to charge lower, okay? Whatever people decide they want to do with their fucking time and their gifts is their prerogative, right? You can look at it, go, man, I would love to get a reading from this person, and then look at that price and go, maybe not. And then, just keep ingesting their content or whatever. And then realize at some point in time, I can do what they're doing. There's no reason that I need to be giving them obscene amounts of money for their time, because I can do that. It's just going to take a lot of time to learn how to do that. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a lot of diligence on my part, but that's the whole point of the community that we are a part of. And it bothers me so much that people would rather throw money at a service than learn to do it themselves, because tarot reading is so fucking easy once you get there, right? Yeah, you gotta get there, you gotta learn it, you gotta take the time, you gotta commit to it. And once you realize there are only so many times, so many ways you can do readings for yourself before it starts to get monotonous and you realize, maybe I don't need to be asking these questions anymore. Maybe this isn't what I need to be asking questions about. Maybe this isn't what I need guidance on. Maybe I should flip the question on its head and find the actual root of what it is I'm trying to figure out. Maybe I should solve the issue instead of asking questions about the symptoms, you know? But that's the whole point of the community that we're a part of, is learning and spiritual growth. And tarot readings, I'm going to say it again and I'll keep saying it for the rest of forever. Tarot readings are not meant to be ingested like regular TikTok content. You should not be watching spiritual guidance like this. I'm sorry, but it's not meant to be that way. If you were getting a reading from your local healer back in the day, you'd have to set some time aside for that and do that once a week, or, you know, twice a week or whatever. Actually make time for it and actually go drive over there and see the person who can do the readings for you and have that done. There is no fucking reason that we are ingesting readings the way that we are as social media content, and it has given me such a big ick for what the spiritual community, spirituality, and spiritual guidance as a whole has turned into, just because of social media and monetization. So yeah, I feel some type of way. I really do, and I really wholeheartedly also support what this guy's saying about if we teach each other how to utilize these gifts in ourselves, and tell everybody that, hey, this is within you. You don't need to go to this person for that because it's within you. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. And any reader who tells you otherwise is fucking lying to you. Any healer who tells you otherwise is fucking lying to you. Yeah, you can get it done faster and better by somebody who has already learned it, but learning it yourself is going to send you on a journey that is invaluable, and you're going to learn something else, and you're going to find more people along the way that are going to help you in a better way than that person just clearing up your issue right now is going to help. Because yeah, maybe you got some mucky energy in you right now and you need somebody to clear it out for you, but also, are you going to do that every week? Are you going to do that every day? How much are you paying this person to do that for you? Do you realize that you could do that yourself? Do you realize that you could get all the tools that that person has and do it yourself? Do you realize that you don't need any of those tools and you could actually do it with visualization and calling on your guides? Do you realize that you can do all of that with a good shower or a good bath? Anyways, I just wanted to share this because I have been seeing it come up a lot lately in the community, and I want to put my 2 cents in on it because this is something that I have been struggling with for a long time as well. And a lot of people feel like, well, if I can make a living off of this, then I must be doing something right. And I'm gonna tell you from my experience what happened to me personally when I made the most amount of money I have ever made through my shop. It was when I was making crystal confetti. I shit you not. When there was that big explosion of crystal confetti on the internet, right? And everybody was losing their fucking minds over crystal confetti. And everywhere you tried to buy crystal confetti, it was either sold out or stupid fucking expensive. And, you know, Kenna made crystal confetti a really big deal. So I saw that because I'm real good at seeing patterns. And I said, I should get in on that. I should see what this is about. Just because it's big right now. I should see like what this is about, right? And I made thousands of dollars in the span of like every month that I did it, just selling crystal confetti, to the point that the people who were coming to my shop weren't just buying crystal confetti anymore. They were buying lots of other things because they had been brought to my shop because they were searching for crystal confetti, to the point that I had to get bigger boxes. I had never in my life needed boxes to ship things, right? And I needed to get boxes and multiple sizes of boxes for that. And I found a lot of loyal repeat customers from that experience. But also, when you stop giving the crystal confetti, everybody leaves, right? Well, I was only here for the crystal confetti, and you're not doing that anymore, so I'm gonna go get my fix somewhere else, right? I don't want to sell crystal confetti for the rest of my fucking life just because it was an obscene amount of money that was coming in. I was constantly buying shit for that crystal confetti. Constantly, every single day I had to order something for that shit. This is running out of that. This is running out. Maybe I should buy 4 of those instead of just 1 this time. Like, I could never plan enough for how crazy that crystal confetti took off. And just because it did so well does not mean that I wanted to do it. I didn't even want to do it in the first place. I thought it was going to be like a cute little add-on that people were going to come buy whatever they were buying and they'd be like, oh, you have crystal confetti, I'll get a little bag of that, right? No, that shit went wild. And I don't want to keep doing that for the rest of forever just because of how much money it made. And I had to constantly be making content of order packing, making more confetti, mixing the confetti right, just so much fucking content around that to even be able to generate those types of sales. And it's not to say that it can't be done, and I could take that mentality and put it towards everything else that I do, but once I saw how much work that was, how much of my time went into that, I realized this isn't what I want to do. I didn't realize that I didn't want to make a career out of social media and my business. I didn't realize that I didn't want to be glued to this forever until I had that experience, and I was like, I can't fucking do this. I can't do this every day, every week, every month, every year, year in and year out for 5 more years, let alone 10 more years, right? I can see how people can get addicted to it because it's good money, and they go, well, I only need to push myself a little bit harder. I just need to do it for the rest of this year, and then I'll be able to break even and get out of that debt, and then I'll figure something out again next year, right? I get it. I understand how that happens, but for me, monetizing a hustle or monetizing a product should not be the same concept as monetizing your spiritual gifts. And I think that that's something that our wires keep getting crossed on because it's too easy. I'm like suffocating in here. It's too easy to cross wires on the hustle culture, right? And what you're good at, especially when it's something you're so naturally good at and it just comes so easy to you. It's easy to be like, it doesn't take any effort. I guess I could just keep doing this, right? That's how I felt about tarot readings. I felt very indifferent about it because I was like, well, it doesn't take any effort and I'm good at it and I love doing it, so I guess I can keep doing it. But it's not where my heart was. It's not what I was passionate about. And it got to the point that even my guides were like, you don't want to do this, do you? Like, you're not really into it, and you're not having so much fun, and you're like really stressed out when you get tarot readings booked. Like, you're not feeling this anymore. Hey, probably switch up your services, right? That's what they said. It wasn't stop reading tarot. It was probably switch up your services. It was, hey, offer a different service. Offer something that you're willing to do that doesn't require cards, right? And at that time, I was already sitting with the guidance, and I realized I don't think I want to charge for services right now. You know, I'll figure that out later. But right now, it doesn't sit right with me. Charging for services, charging for my time. You know, who the fuck am I? Charging for my fucking time like I'm Jeff Bezos. So, all of that, just to come to the big roundabout conclusion of me saying, 1, discernment. 2, if you don't feel right about advice or guidance you are given, sit with it. That means sit with it. That means meditate. That means write about it. And I especially mean write about it. This is a hard one to get people on board with because not everybody likes writing, but I am a writer. I went to school for writing, and something that I learned in writing class, there was a quote that our teacher used to make us write in the beginning of every one of our notebooks, which was, "How do I know what I think until I see what I say?" And that still continues to surprise me, even to this day. Literally the other day, I was super irritated about something, and I could feel myself boiling, right? Like I could feel myself boiling about it, and I just wanted to like get it out, give it to somebody, right? I could feel it. And you know, my husband came home and he was in like such a sweet, loving mood, and I was like, don't fucking breathe on me right now. You know, and I just wanted to give him all that shit that I was boiling about. So I took a little chill pill. So let me go downstairs, let me remove myself so I don't give this to him, and let me figure out what it is I'm actually trying to say, what it is I actually want to say before I just throw everything at him and hurt his feelings. So I sat there. Luckily, my husband knows when I need space. And I sat there and I wrote for, I think like an hour, probably like a good long time. And I just wrote out everything I was thinking, everything I was feeling, everything I wanted to say to him. And it led to everything that's been irking me for 6 months, right? Like, fuck you and your dirty socks, you know? Like, I just let everything out. And then at the end of it, like right as I finished, he came down to check on me. "Hey baby, how you doing? Is everything okay? Is there anything I can help with?" Being a sweet, loving husband, right? I was like, I had just wrote all this shit out, and I was like, I do not want to look at you right now. I don't want to look at you. Don't breathe on me. Get away from me, right? I didn't say any of that. I knew that that's what was going to come out of my mouth, so I just stayed quiet. And he kind of got it, and he like walked away and went outside for a minute. And I reread part of what I had just written so that I could try to retain my irritation, I guess. And when I read it, I was like, damn, I don't want to say any of this. I don't want to say any of this to him right now. So I left it alone, right? I went upstairs. I was like, fine, let me go fucking lay down. Let me cool off my hot head. Let me put on the cold air, right? And he came upstairs and he was being so loving and so sweet and so amazing. And I was like, damn. I'm glad I didn't say any of that to him, right? So I slept on it, read it in the morning, and I was like, damn. I am glad I didn't say any of that. Yeah, there are a couple of points in there that I could bring up, but I could do it in a better way, in a calmer way, in a much more structured and conducive way. But I wouldn't have known any of that if I had acted on impulse and emotional charge and just spit out everything that I was thinking when he asked. You know, if he had said, "Hey baby, what are you thinking about?" And I said, "You know what I'm fucking thinking about," you know what I mean? And I realized like that happens a lot, not only because I'm pregnant and hormonal, but because that's what happens in a relationship, right? Sometimes they just happen to ask you the wrong thing at the wrong time and you just fucking explode, or you say the wrong thing at the wrong time and they explode. Like, nobody understands themselves and their feelings and their thoughts, and that's what I have been trying to figure out lately, right? But what I mean by all of that is write about it, okay? So if you're feeling some type of way about some type of advice or guidance you are given by your spirits, write about it. Tell your spirits, I need some time. I need some time to think. Let me think on this. Let me sleep on this, okay? Let me consult some other spirits. Let me get some second opinions. Let me sit with this. If you tell your spirits, let me sit with this, let me meditate with this, I can guarantee you they're not gonna be mad. They might be a little peeved that you don't take their advice right away, or that you don't say like, yeah, that is good advice, because like anybody, when they're giving you advice, they kind of expect you to acknowledge it. But it's okay to say, I don't really know about this right now. I would like some time to think. I need some space. I need to breathe. I need to gather myself. They are not going to be mad at you for that, I promise. And if you write about it and you just journal, just stream of consciousness journal, and write all the things that you're thinking. I don't know if you guys know how to stream of consciousness journal. It means you don't need to structure your writing. You don't need to have an introduction and a body and a conclusion. You don't need to have facts and bullet points and fucking references. It means just write exactly what you're thinking as you are thinking it. Just transcribe your thoughts. Like, you know what a court stenographer is? The people who just type what everybody's saying in court. Do that, but with your thoughts, okay? Don't worry about who's gonna see it or who might read it, or don't worry about reading it back over. Don't worry about grammatical errors. Don't worry about messing things up. Don't worry about if you fucking spelled something wrong. Don't worry about it. Just keep writing. Keep up with your stream of consciousness and get out whatever it is you are thinking and feeling in that moment until you feel like you can breathe. And then when you get to that point of like, I don't know what else to say that. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to end this. I don't really know where to go from here, right? It's okay to say that, because in that moment you need to be emotionally vulnerable with yourself. That's what that time is for. That's what journaling is for. It is the cheapest therapy, because you can get a fucking composition book for 50 cents. And yeah, okay, we can argue you have the notes app on your phone, all of that shit. I personally, as a writer, like to write things out, but sometimes I know that my brain is moving faster than my hand will in that moment, and sometimes I do type some shit out. And then I go back and I print it out and I put it in my journal so that I can pretend that I journaled, okay? I'm gonna admit that to you. But sometimes also the actual act of writing and feeling your hand cramp and being like, damn, this fucking pen is drying out, and fuck these pages, right? I don't even like this notebook. All of that will also help ground you in that moment. That's something that we really take for granted and we don't realize in situations like that, where you're just so fucking frustrated and so overwhelmed and you have so many thoughts in your head, and you got so many people in your ear, you can't even think straight. You're not thinking about grounding and breathing and things like that. And so sometimes actually just feeling those little human things is going to help you be like, oh, I'm actually here right now. I should probably chill the fuck out. There's actually people around me and I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings. Maybe you do want to hurt some people's feelings. Maybe that's the right time for you to hurt feelings. That's fine. If that's the route you want to go, if that's the time to do it, then do it. But my point is, journaling about these things will help you see what it is you're thinking. Because just because you're thinking it and it's in your brain and it's in your head all the time doesn't mean you know what you're thinking. Doesn't mean you know what it sounds like. And sometimes you might like sometimes you might also run over your own thoughts with criticism and judgment, because that is the way that your voice works in your head. Sometimes you might say something and your brain will automatically stop you and say, quit bitching, stop complaining, be grateful, right? You'll act as your own persecutor in your brain sometimes, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And you can do that on paper, and then you'll see that you're doing that, and you'll understand that that is a thing that is holding you back, right? But that's something you can't do until you see it. So like I said, that quote says, how do I know what I think until I see what I say? And that continues to keep me writing on a regular basis, still to this day. It reminds me, like, just because I feel like I know what I'm thinking doesn't mean that I know what I'm thinking, okay? And sometimes you gotta just fucking barf it out onto a paper, calm down for a minute, run it back, and be like, oh, that's not what I meant at all. And then think about the fact of what would have happened if you said that to somebody. How wrong that would have went, how misconstrued that would have went, how messed up that would have made everything, because you couldn't take the time to slow down and just write about it and think about it and get a second opinion. So second opinions are very important, but exerting your boundaries and saying, I need time, I need space, I need to think about this, I need to write about this, I need to sit with this, right? I want to say meditate so bad, but when you say meditate, like, everybody scatters like roaches when you say meditate, but let's be honest, that's what you got to do, that's what you need to do. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to meditate and you watched an hour's worth of me rambling just to hear me say that meditation is the answer. Because yeah, meditation is the answer, but it's not the answer for everyone at every point in time. You got to get there to get there, right? So yeah, it took me how many fucking years of trying to learn how to meditate to be able to actually meditate conducively to the point that it actually helps and does something. But meditating still does not replace what I get from writing. That's a very important distinction to make. And if you are the type of person who creates art or creates music, you meditate there, okay? And I know that you've heard that a million times and you don't need to hear it again today. But the point is, I think writing about it will help. If nothing else, if you can't meditate, if you can't go out for a walk, if you can't talk about it with anyone, if every time you try to talk about it, it comes out wrong, maybe you need to just see what you're thinking. Maybe you need to just have a talk with yourself. Maybe you need to split yourself in two and have a little conversation back and forth. What I actually like to do is writing out the conversations that I have with my deities. Because then I can go back and look at it. Because you can't really record a conversation you're having with your deities. You can, but are you really going to go back and listen to it? I mean, if you are the type of person who does that, who's very organized, and you go back and you take notes based on your conversations, that's great. That's fantastic for you. I'm not. I'll record it and that shit goes into the abyss. I'll never see it again. So if I write it out and I write the conversation, you know, them, me, them, me, them, me, I'll come back to that. I'll reread it because I go back through my stuff often to print things. So I'll look at what needs to go in my journal. What have I written lately that I need to print out and put in my journal? What is part of my book? What needs to go over here? What is, you know, that's how I find my fucking grocery list. Sometimes is like trying to edit a paper and then I'm like, oh God, I needed fucking milk. So I hope that all of my rambling served to help somebody today. I'm not going to pretend like any of this was helpful. It's helpful to me. But I know that I do have a habit of talking way too much after I've already said my point. So I'm going to go ahead and end here. And I hope that this helped somebody somewhere at some point in time, whenever you find it. I didn't even need cards for that, but I wasn't sure. I'm never sure, you know. Spirit will tell me. The Spirit wants to tell me when Spirit wants to tell me. And sometimes it just comes out in the form of, hey, turn on your camera and fucking ramble for a little bit. And maybe it'll help somebody, maybe it won't, but maybe it'll help me. And I'll see it a month from now and be like, damn, I needed that. So anyways, wherever you guys are when this video reaches you, I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful day, my friends. I can't wait to see you in the next one. And genuinely, if you took nothing else from what I said, if you are having doubts, if you're feeling itchy about some kind of advice that somebody has given you, be it a physical person or a spiritual body, sit on it. Please sit on it. Think about it. Reflect on it. Okay? Take some time. Write about it. Meditate on it. Take all the time you need. Because you are feeling itchy about it for a reason. Probably because it doesn't align with you and your morals. It doesn't align with something. And either it's something you need to figure out and resolve, or it's something that isn't meant to go with you. Okay? Either way, you need to sit with it and figure it out. Figure out why it's making you itchy. Figure out why you don't like it. Figure out why it doesn't align with you. And it's going to help you in the long run to understand that this is an important skill to have when it comes to spiritual guidance and your own spiritual growth, because you need to learn to listen to yourself. You need to learn to guide yourself. Okay, you need to learn to be in touch with your intuition. You need to learn to be in touch with your discernment. And that only comes from having conversations with yourself, and a whole lot of them. So that means start learning how to speak your own language, start learning how to interpret your own language, start learning how to help yourself, and start learning how to ask yourself for help. Okay? I really hope that helps. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one.